Ecclesiasticus chapter 29 and verse 21. The chief things for life is water and bread and clothing and an house to cover shame. Shalom, brothers and sisters. This is your brother Hawayala. I want to give all glory and praises to our Heavenly Father Yahweh, and we do so in the name of our Lord and Savior Yahawashi. Grace and mercy be abound to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth that are waiting on the second coming of our Lord and Savior Yahawashi Hamashiach. Today, just going on into, the part 2 from the lesson that was done previously, which was concerning the whole, issue that's going on globally, but primarily, here in Babylon, where, we're talking about the cost of living going up and how, things are getting harder for the masses. So, one of the reasons why I read this is because we are looking at what are some of the most important things in our life, the essential things, right? So you have your essentials, you have your things that you need, your necessities, and you have things that are what you would consider more luxury. And those are the things that take a back seat when it comes to our life. As we know that we bring nothing in this world and we can take nothing out of it. So we have to be cognizant of that as we, build our daily lives. Now, that doesn't mean that the Most High wouldn't want you to enjoy certain things, but a lot of times, and over the years as I've gotten older, is I realized that you almost got to pick and choose what it is that you would be willing to spend extra money on, depending on, what you have going on. For instance, for me, as someone who, basically does videos, I do editing, I'm going to spend more money on, my computer, a monitor, a mouse, a keyboard, a microphone, things like that. I'm going to spend money on the computer desk. So I have to basically say, you know what, this is something that I'd be willing to spend a little bit more money on than average. But in other areas, I might not spend as much money. But when it comes to like your essentials of life, what's going to allow you to live, this is the bare essentials of what you would need to just live and see another day. And you have to think about what is most important. And there is varying things because, one would look at the most important thing, right, for you, and we're just speaking carnally, is for you to, have access to water and have access to food, right? So, meaning you can do without a lot of other things, but you would need that, right? And then you would need clothing to protect your body, okay, and to also cover your nakedness. And then also, a place to stay where you can basically, recollect your thoughts. Because if you don't have a place where you can lay your head, then your mind is never really going to be fully at ease. And that's one of the things that people call a house. Everybody talks about how it's a safe haven or a place of comfort, a place of peace. And we know that can vary, depending on someone's situation. So we have to look at what are some of these things. So what I did is, I'm not going to go over everything as far as what we would deal with on a daily basis, but I just went into some key points of areas where a lot of, our income that we work is being spent, and basically how to navigate those things and make those things better. Because truth be told, a lot of us were not raised up properly in terms of how to budget and how to plan and how to basically utilize different things to our advantage and to make ourselves have an easier life even in captivity. So I'm going to show you a video. I'm not going to actually play it because I want to kind of keep it short, but you can look some of these things up. I will probably put a link for at least a few of these, but as far as the links to certain websites. But as far as the videos, I'm just going to show some of the videos. Now, this one right here is a video by Austin Williams, How to Manage My Money on a Low Income, Budgeting and Saving. Now, he talks about how much money he makes and how he budgets his money. The whole point is not to basically look at how he's living and how much money he has. It's just the mentality behind budgeting and saving, okay? Meaning that, trying to make enough money for your monthly budget once you get your budget down, and it's very important for you to know where your money is going. Because a lot of times people will spend money in areas that they don't really need, and they don't remove it out of the way, because sometimes it can be something you can shift out of the way that can bring more income into you, or there's certain things that you can stop doing, like eating out or buying expensive clothes, shoes, things like that, where you cut back on these things. And I'll kind of get into that later as well. But there's ways for you to kind of like cut down on some of these expenses, okay? And you can pretty much give yourself a raise by budgeting and seeing where your money is going and being more prudent with what you're doing, okay? So it's a good idea to probably watch this video just to kind of develop the mindset, especially for you younger brothers that have never done this. And this is even good if you are in a position maybe where you are making more money than ever before, because like I said in the other video, a lot of times when people come into more money, the habit is to improve your lifestyle significantly according to that income. But a lot of times, if you look at your income that you have coming in, your new income, that's an area of opportunity for you to invest on a short-term level. Of course, we know that this whole system is going to change. So we don't want to, be thinking we're going to be rich like Scrooge McDuck and be stacking coins, and then all of a sudden, you ain't got access to it no more unless you got that chip. Now you're under a heavier temptation. And not many brothers can handle, having a lot of money. Okay, there's going to be a few brothers that are going to be able to handle, having a lot of money or being quote unquote rich and still being able to have the faith to fight for salvation and to, I guess you could say resist the temptation to continue the lifestyle that they have access to whenever they drop that temptation via the MOTB, right? So I recommend that you watch this. Also, YouTube has a lot of information. There's no reason why a lot of us should be ignorant about a lot of things when, this is the information age. Yes, there's a lot of misinformation, but there's a lot of good information if you're looking for it. And you can learn certain things from other people. I know we had some false brethren that were offended because they were learning from somebody that knew more than them. But if you're someone who humbles yourself and wants to advance yourself in life, you're always going to be learning and adding to your repertoire. I always say, the way I am, there's not a day that goes by where I have not learned something new. If you woke up and then you went to sleep and you didn't learn anything new that day, that's a missed opportunity, because I can't see it. I mean, you have to be a learner and adding and to your knowledge base as you keep going and going, and I just can't fathom a life where every day I'm not learning at least something new. I learn a little bit of something new every day. It could be somewhere, something that's going on outside in the world. It could be something that's going on around me. It could be something in the scriptures that I learn. It could be a word. It could be a history lesson. It could be an article. It could be any little thing, okay, that I can add to my knowledge base and then expand yourself. So, do yourself, a favor and, get on that level of doing that. There are other tools of budgeting as well, where you can use certain apps. There's apps that actually help you with budgeting. And if you get into that habit, it can help you. This is, not 100% foolproof method. We know that things happen. We are in captivity. We know that we work and it feels like there's a hole at the bottom of the bag every time we dump the money in, right? So I'm not in any way saying that problems won't come or don't, happen at all. But we do have to be mindful of whatever it is that we've been given, to be good stewards of what we're receiving and given at that time. Now, I'm going to go ahead and read this real quick. This is Ecclesiastes chapter 7, verse 11. Wisdom is good with an inheritance, and by it there is profit to them that see the sun. Okay? So, wisdom is good with an inheritance, man. And one of the things that we have to understand is that we were given, a great, law in wisdom, Proverbs, Psalms, the books of the prophets, for us to navigate the times that we're in. Okay, we know that the fear of the Lord is the beginning of wisdom. Okay, so we have to exercise that and understand and count, the things, count the cost of everything that we have going on in our life, and try and be more reasonable with what we are doing with our money. Okay, Now, going on to verse 12, for wisdom is a defense and money is a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. Okay, so we see here that wisdom is a defense, because wisdom is going to protect you. You're going to know exactly what to do at what time, and you're going to have proper understanding or knowledge. Okay, money is a defense. You know, with money, or the right amount of money, you can get out of a lot of things. I mean, there's always a saying about, you know, these celebrities and some of these people that are rich that, oh, they're able to get off from such and such crime or accusation because they had money, right? They got a defense attorney. They had money, or they had enough money to mount up a strong enough defense, or, you know, whatever, for whatever it was, right? We're just saying this hypothetically. But money is a defense, okay? Meaning, you know, it's a defense against certain things. You know, you even see certain parts in the scriptures where certain things needed to be done and money was involved. Okay, it just is what it is. Okay, where if you have to look at how it can be a defense for you. You know, if you use it the right way, if you use it as a tool the right way. Okay, it can also be a stumbling block. Money can be a stumbling block for those who do not have wisdom. Okay, for those that are full of greed, it could be a stumbling block, okay? Because it can be something that allows them access to do things wickedly, right? And we know this, we've seen this, you know, just looking at society as a whole, and some of the things that have gone on, that people sometimes can use money for the wrong things, right? But if you have wisdom, you can use it as a defense. But the excellency of knowledge is that wisdom giveth life to them that have it. So in the end, the excellence of knowledge is that wisdom giveth light to them that have it. And we know that when we talk about the riches, we always talk about really the riches of the kingdom, the riches of the things to come that can never be taken away. Okay, because if you earn any income, that can be taken, that can be stolen. Okay, it can be taken away from you. But the wisdom, okay, that of the gospel of salvation and going through that path, that's going to give you the everlasting riches. Okay, so now we're going to go on to, you know, one of the things that a lot of brothers and sisters don't know about, especially if you're young, is going to be credit and the importance of it. Now, like I said before, you know, things can change. So all this stuff is subject to change. There are actually going to be changes done in the credit system. There's even a saying about a social credit system as well. But in the meantime, under this one, this is something that we just recommend that every brother and sister should do. Okay, this is something that I have, which is Experian. It's a credit report. You can get it free, report and FICO score. And I also have Credit Karma. Okay, I have both of these apps downloaded on my phone. Now, before, when I was, you know, started working and making money and got my own place, you know, years ago, it was something that I wasn't even keeping a track of, because I didn't even have any credit card for years. And then later on, I got a Best Buy credit card and I bought some things and I paid it off. And then I didn't really charge anything on it for years. And then I got a car. I was paying that, making my payments. And then I sold it and I got another car. So by the time I had gotten to the point where I had gotten a home or was able to get a mortgage, I already had outstanding credit, but I only had a few things under it. And usually what I would do is I would only spend money that I have anyway. So to me, I didn't really like the whole credit thing, because I preferred to spend the money that I made myself. So I didn't rely on credit cards. We know a lot of people do rely on credit cards. Now, there are times when you are going to need it. And this is why I recommend that from an emergency standpoint, it's a good idea to have a credit card with a significant credit limit if you can. And the reason why is because it's going to act as somewhat of a defense for incidentals, things that you may not be prepared for. If you need to fly out to for a family emergency, if you need to, you know, repair your vehicle and you don't have the actual cash on hand, but you can use your credit to pay for it in the meantime. or to cover grocery expenses if things kind of get tight until you figure things out and to pivot. This is very good to have an understanding of your credit situation and a credit card. Now, I will say this, that I didn't even get Credit Karma until a few years back. I did have Experian, but I only logged into it like once a year. I would check my credit score once a year back then when I didn't really have much credit to use. I knew I was always making my payments on time. Only had a few things like maybe a car loan or two, and then maybe like one credit card and one retail credit card, right? So you have to understand that you need to keep track of this. I'm telling you, brothers and sisters, especially for you brothers, you need to have track of it. I know for some of us, it may be scary to look at that credit score because you've had maybe a bad financial or credit history and you don't want to look at it, but it's important for you to look at it and know. And let me tell you why. Because if you study these other some of these YouTubers, the ones that can give you good free information, and talk to brothers as well, those of us that know about credit, you can actually figure out how you can pay certain things or not pay certain things depending on how long you've had your stuff outstanding in terms of some of the debt that you've had, or the outstanding loans or whatever that you have. And I say this because when I got on Credit Karma years back, there were certain things that I had on that report that I knew that if I didn't pay it, they were going to eventually be discharged off, because I was only like a year and a half or 2 years or maybe even 3 years away. And it was up to a point where it didn't make sense for me to go and pay that off. And I've actually just even recently experienced one of them actually get removed and discharged off that I had with a credit union many years back. And my credit score went up and I never even touched it. But had I went out of my way to go pay them, it would have been the same thing, and I would have lost out on money unnecessarily by paying them back. And they want you to pay them. The people that take on the bad credit and they call you and they say, hey, we'll make a deal with you. Those are things that you have to know how that system works. Again, I can't go into everything here, but this is something that if brothers want to talk about it, maybe we'll do a conference call on it as well for brothers that have questions, because at the end of the day, we want to help one another. We want to make sure that brothers are in a better situation than they are now. And a lot of times the situation is not improving maybe for a brother because he doesn't know. He's ignorant. If you're ignorant, that's okay, because now you have a chance to learn, right? And a lot of times you may think you're not able to get or do something, but you are able, you just don't know. Okay? And we are in a world where you have to know how this world is ran, and basically be able to find yourself to take advantage of certain things that are available to you, right, in these times. Now, how did I build my credit? One of the things that I did when I had bad credit, and I got this card back in, I want to say it was in 2019. It was either 2019 or, yeah, it had to be 2019. Because I remember one of the first things that I purchased, I used this card for, was to get some new tires for my old man at the time. I remember that was one of the first things I did when I got the card. But this is what's called a secured credit card. Now, this website is mypremiercreditcard.com. It's by First Premier Bank. I found out about this through, I believe, a YouTuber that was talking about building credit, and one of the places that was recommended was to get, a secure card, because if you have bad credit, you're just not going to be able to get a credit card more than likely. It does depend. You can always try, but you might not be able to. So if you're not able to get a regular credit card, then you need to build your credit with a secure credit card. And this can take it can take some time. It may take a year to build it up to where you might get enough points to where you're maybe at a reasonable level, depending on how low you started. But this has helped out a lot. I started out, I believe, just with $100 on a secure card. Now I've 9, 10 times that, because after a while, when you make your payments, you can request to increase your credit limit, and they can continue to increase your credit limit. And so this is what I use as my primary card, and I may get a second card as my credit score goes up. And the reason why I say it's a good idea to have a credit card, because it's going to help you have it in the event of an emergency. I think if you can use it from that perspective, it's always better. And then any income that you have from work, you utilize that. But if you ever need to make a particular purchase, or let's say you're traveling and you want to put something on a card, like a lot of times if you're traveling and you're getting a hotel, they're going to want you to put it on a credit card, but then you can pay cash or pay with your debit later. That's where you'd want to have something like a credit card. Okay, it's going to be beneficial. So I highly recommend that if you need a credit card, you've never had one, or you're looking to rebuild your credit, this is a good place to go. It has worked for me. Very simple for me to log in, see my information, pay, and then also request increases of my credit limit as well. Now, on to something that's very big. Housing, okay? Now, this is the HUD.gov. I will put this link in the video for you brothers and sisters. This is a place where you can go to find out about rental assistance, okay? These are places where they have low-income housing available, okay? These properties that are out here around the country, there's various ones that qualify for this, okay? Which is low-income housing credit, tax credits. You got places that actually they're in this program, okay? Meaning that if they house different tenants, they're going to get a certain amount of credit for them housing. And a lot of people that own properties, they use this as a way to really have a steady income and steady, renters. Because a lot of times what people don't understand is that some of these property owners, they already own some of these things outright, or they may have gotten it at such a low price that they can afford to lower their costs at a certain level to where they can still get their credits for it, and then also still make money off of whatever the person's paying. And so the way you would do it, you can go here. Okay, now let's say you're looking for an apartment. You're going to click on this link, search for an apartment, type in the cities that you live around, any towns and cities that you live around, and they're going to have a map of all the different places that have these lower income housings, okay, for apartments. You also have public housing, okay, that's basically a whole nother thing. Of course, depending on your situation, some of you may look into this, or if you have family members, they may look into this. Another one is a housing voucher, okay, Section 8 housing voucher, which we've talked about before. All this stuff varies, but if you're just looking for an apartment, and I actually looked this up, through YouTube. Somebody, I was looking up low income or basically affordable apartments, and then somebody suggested this on the YouTube video, and I came straight here and I found this link, and I seen that it's legit, right? It is from the government. Now, why am I saying this? If you're a brother that's looking for a place to stay, this is a good idea for you to look into this, especially if you're working full time, because there could be a time when you're not able to get this, because what is going to happen is more and more people, as the cost of living continues to increase, people are going to be looking for alternatives, and you want to give yourself an opportunity to get in before these places are grabbed up. And many times with these places is when you are going to pay for rent, but it will be significantly lower than what you would pay in that same city. And what I mean by significantly lower, it could be anywhere between, it could be a couple of $100 lower than what a comparable place will be, or it may be up to $500. I mean, it just depends on the place. But one of the reasons why it's a good idea to get into it now is that if you are extending your lease at this place, any of these places, and many of these places, you don't have to go through this process again. You can just extend with them. Many of these places do have background checks, They will require you to have show proof of income, show that you're currently a working person. But this is one of the things you could do. And, look in and around your area when you're looking at this. If you're planning on moving to another city and you need housing, you're not knowing whether or not you're going to be able to afford to get something, look at a place like this. I will put the link available for y'all to have in the event that y'all need to, look this up. Now, another thing that we talked about was cars. We know that one of the things that is the biggest expenses outside of housing is going to be your vehicle. And with cars going up, it's important for you to know how to budget for a vehicle, how to pay for a vehicle. I will say this, that, I come from a family that has purchased a lot of different vehicles. I have family that are in the auto industry, that are involved in buying and selling used cars themselves, or, even have relatives that work at dealerships. Now, if you're a brother or sister and you are working, you're making money, and you are in need of a vehicle, feel free to talk to me about it, because, the car market is very treacherous right now, and you need to know what vehicles are reliable, which vehicles are going to be cheaper for you to maintain. You're also going to need to know how to go about pre-purchasing inspections of the vehicle. Now, there are different places. Like I said, I can't go into everything. If you're looking for a car, one of the cheaper places to look at is going to be places like Craigslist and the Facebook marketplace, where you can get very good deals, especially if you're a cash buyer, or let's say you secured a personal loan of some sort and you have the ability to just pay cash. You can get some pretty good deals. And the reason why you can get pretty good deals on Facebook Marketplace and on Craigslist, and make sure you're safe. Make sure that if you're going to meet up with somebody, make sure you look at what part of town they're from. Make sure you look and see whether or not they are a person that maybe is selling multiple cars. Make sure you have somebody with you, or you're having them meet you at a place that's very public, particularly like a police station. You know what I'm saying? Have them meet with you in front of a police station, okay, where you can see the vehicle. Okay, don't even have it at like at a grocery store parking lot, man. Put them in a place where if you're going to see a vehicle, you're going to see it there, and you need to also have a way of checking the vehicle's, maintenance, or its, how good it looks, how good it drives. There's a lot of things. Now, that could be a problem for a lot of people. If you're willing to pay more to not deal with the hassle of that, then you can go through a dealership, and they can help you with that understanding of going through a dealership and how to get it. There are vehicles that are way more reliable than others, and if you want to get a vehicle that's very reliable for you and for your family, you're going to need to do some research. Just don't go out there and just go and get whatever car that you think looks good and you think you're going to be a-okay. Because if you get a bad car, you will not be driving it. It'll be a money pit. You'll be in a lot of heartache and pain. I'm telling you. Okay. And so you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. You need to get with other brothers to talk to you about any purchases that can help you out, that can give you suggestions, give you what to look out for, tell you how you can get a mechanic to come and check out the vehicle, get a pre-purchase inspection, all that. So that way you get something that's going to be reliable for you, because some of us live in cities where we need transportation, our own transportation, to get to work. If you live in the East Coast, you live in certain areas of town where you literally can walk, or you can take a short Uber or a Lyft to work, and it's no big deal. Cool. You can take a subway, train, whatever, and you don't need it. Because I know people that have it like that. You know what I'm saying? Especially on the East Coast. Most of them don't even need cars to get around. Cool. But if you're in a place where you really need a car, and you know that you're in an automobile city where public transportation is either unsafe or it's just not reasonable for you to use, then you're going to need to know how to purchase a vehicle, and you're going to need to know what kind of vehicles is best fit for you. Now, Another thing is food. Food is, of course, essential. With rising costs of food going up, with the groceries going up, one of the ways to cut down on how much money you're spending on food is to meal prep, to basically buy in bulk and prep your food. Okay, now this is something that, you know, I'm gonna start doing more. Usually I'll make my food if I'm going to work. I have food that I already have that I'll take to work, or if I come back home, I'll make my food when I get home, right? But one of the things you can do if you want to save time and you want to basically have a well-balanced thought of diet, you meal prep. And when you look at how much you will be spending on each meal after you meal prep, it's way better than what you would spend, of course, going out to eat. And this can save you a lot of money, a lot of money compared to eating out all the time. I mean, you're gonna save a lot of money. Now, this goes back into the beginning in dealing with budgeting. Okay, so that's the reason why it's important for you to understand this. And I follow this guy, Josh Cortez, the Meal Prep Manual, and he has some very good meals. Now, again, there are some stuff in here that he has that's going to have, unclean food in here. But for the most part, you can curtail it to what it is that's going to be clean for you. In certain things you don't like, ingredients you can remove, or, you can add whatever it is that you like. So it doesn't mean you make the exact meals that he has here, but you can switch it up as well. Okay, you can switch up some of the stuff in here as well, but it just gives you an idea of how to meal prep. And I'm telling you, you'll definitely save money in the long run, and just month to month in the short term, you'll save money. And this could be the difference of you even getting a car. I'll give you an example. Like, you got people, they're spending maybe $600 a month on food because they're eating out. They're eating out half the time, and they make food, the other half. But if they just chop down their eating out and they went meal prep, they may be able to drop their income, or how much they're spending, $200 to $300 a month, and that can go towards getting a vehicle. That can go towards other things, right? So that can go towards helping you get around, whatever it is that you're trying to budget. Okay, so that's why I highly recommend. He's a very, good YouTube channel. To show you exactly like how to meal prep, and a lot of these things for meal prepping is not even that expensive. Whether it's the food, as far as like when you look at the average of each meal, and there's stores you can go to. Sprouts has good stuff. You have Aldi's, depending on this, where you're at. I know some of you guys over, different states, y'all have Publix. We don't have a Publix. We have HEB. Everybody knows about the bigger chains, Walmart, Target. But you can find a happy medium for you to get a proper meal prep. And in addition to that, this is good for you sisters that are wives, okay? Or planning to be wives. If you have kids, this helps you cut down some time. If your husband is okay with you prepping meals, meaning meals already pre-made and ready for him to eat when he comes back from work, or what he takes going to work, this is fantastic, okay? So this is why I highly recommend that you look into this as well. And another thing is clothing. We knew that clothing was one of the essentials as well. So clothing on a budget, I think that's pretty simple. There's a lot of places where you can get clothes for cheap. And let me tell you something, you shouldn't be spending so much money on clothes. Clothes are very affordable if you're looking at the right place. Very affordable. And if you have certain articles of clothing that you need to have at certain times of the year, you can build out your wardrobe pretty effectively, especially off season. I'll tell you, I've, over the years, as you get older, you have so many clothes that many times you realize you don't need half of them. You don't wear half of them. So I've, over time, limited my wardrobe over time. But you can build out a wardrobe that can last you for years, and then you switch out different things as needed. There's no reason for somebody to be having an expensive wardrobe. We know that a lot of people out here are, they're clout chasers. They like certain brands, you know what I'm saying? And they spend extra money for luxury items. That's crazy. Where do I go historically over the years to get my clothes? I don't like spending money on clothes at full retail price. I'm always looking for a deal, coupons. You have online coupons. So over the years, if I was getting athletic gear, I'm gonna go and look at clearance parts of different websites. So if you're talking about Adidas, Nike, Reebok, Puma, clearance section with coupon, you're getting stuff very cheap. If you're talking about stuff like that. If you're talking about secondhand clothing, you can get some good stuff at different thrift stores. You can go to, Goodwill, get some good stuff for the very cheap. Some of the stuff is even brand new with tags on it, and they have them in there, right? Ross, Marshalls, TJ Maxx. You get some stuff very cheap. You can also get stuff on Amazon. You'd be surprised how many flash sales of certain items of clothing that are very high quality. They're cutting down stuff 70, 80% off on flash sales, where you might even go get a hoodie. Like the other day, I got a hoodie. And this is off season, right? So a lot of stuff don't sell, right? A lot of hoodies, people are not buying hoodies during the summer. There was a hoodie might have been worth like $80, $90. Was on sale, had it on the list, got it for like under 20. A high-end, French terry cloth hoodie. So 100% cotton. So you got to understand that if you are, in a budget, you can get clothes on a budget and be good to go. Okay. This is for, someone who just wants to have certain things. Now, in regards to fringes and your border of blue, I get some of that stuff off of Amazon as well. I've had a big bulk of it. I do actually have certain sites that I may purchase from. There is one site that I actually have purchased. Whenever they have sales, I'll buy some shirts with fringes. I bought hoodies with fringes, long sleeve shirts, things like that that already had fringes on it. And usually I'll wait till there's certain deals that they'll have on their site. And I've told a couple of brothers about the website. But you can always make your own as well. You can always make your own. You can get a sewing machine. You can also get glue that's good enough for clothing. You actually have glue that you can use where you can glue on a border blue in the fringes as well, and they'll stay just like it would if you sewed them, right? So these are just opportunities that you can exercise in terms of how it is you want to do it. You can do it any other way. So that's just all it is. Wanted to make sure that you had a good understanding of these things. So like I said, I'm factoring in that there may be young brothers, fresh out of high school, maybe living with their people, getting a job, or you may be getting your place for the first time, and now you have to budget because you're not living with your people anymore. You need to know these things. So this is Proverbs chapter 10 and verse 4. He becometh poor that dealeth with a slack hand, but the hand of the diligent maketh rich. Okay, so, be willing to work. Be willing to put in work. Be willing to, work your hours, maybe pick up an overtime. Be a diligent hard worker. Okay, we're not trying to be rich in terms of the way the world thinks of it, right? We are looking for necessity. So that way we can focus on the things that are important, which is getting into this kingdom, right? Verse 5, he that gathereth in summer is a wise son, but he that sleepeth in harvest is a son that causeth shame. So this is in part dealing with timing. Even though it's talking about summer and harvest, we know that harvest is the fall, right? So there's certain things that you would have to do in these particular seasons in order to prepare for the future. And timing is everything. A lot of times, and I've said this before, there's certain bills that maybe need to be paid at certain, they could be budgeted out. What do I mean by that? You may have a auto insurance, okay? And you have a monthly payment of maybe, let's say $200, but they billed you and they said, hey, you can pay this whole $2,600 or $3,000. And you have some people, they'll be like, wait, well, I got the money. Let me just pay the whole thing for the rest of the year. Now, instead of just paying your $200 a month, which would have been okay, you now have basically discounted what is to come, and you've paid everything. And now when the time comes that you need money, you ain't got it because you already paid your whole insurance off for the whole year. And now you don't have money for your necessities month to month. Okay, and then something happens, you can be without, but hey, you paid off your insurance though, but now you need money for food, you need money for gas, you need money to repair your vehicle, you need money for rent, and now you ain't got it. You know what I'm saying? And that's why it's important to understand wisdom is also about, timing as well. Okay? Just like gathering in the summer is about timing. Harvest is about timing. There's a time and a place for everything. So that's why it talks about using your wisdom, having understanding, knowing what it is that you need now versus later. Okay? So hopefully, that can make some sense on that as well. Okay? And we know that in regards to these, we have different feasts that are accounted for this, but we're talking about doing things in their seasons. That's what we're referring to. Now, this is 2 Thessalonians chapter 3 and verse 7. For yourselves know how ye ought to follow us, for we behave not ourselves disorderly among you, neither do we eat any man's bread for naught, but wrought with labor and travail night and day, that we might not be chargeable to any of you, not because we have not power, but to make ourselves an example unto you to follow us. For even when we were with you, this we commanded you, that if any would not work, neither should he eat. So it's important for you to do your part as a man and work, right? Now, in regards to working, if a brother is in need of a job or whatever, ask brothers. Brothers work in various industries. We know where there's job availability. In fact, the other day, there was a guy, I went to a kolache factory to go get some kolaches. They have like a half off. You buy like a dozen, you get half off after 1:30. So I stopped by there. The guy that worked there, he was talking about, job or looking for a job, and I told him about a place that hires, and I gave him actually the time and season in which was going to be best for him to check it out to see if there was availability. You know what I'm saying? So that's a person that is not even a brother in the faith. So how much more would a brother in the faith show you opportunities for you to make extra income or even a side hustle? Okay, like I've told brothers about the gig economy. Like, even if you have a full-time job, join a gig economy just in case you need it. Not saying you got to go into it immediately, but in the event that you might need to go make a little bit of money to cover expenses or whatever, it's good for you to have that access as well, at least up until, we're done having to subject ourselves to this captivity. So we have to just be mindful of that. And the reason why I say this, and one of the reasons why I did this lesson, because a lot of times as we get into this thing, people think that the end is just going to come like that. Everybody, when they get in, they swear that the end is going to come tomorrow, the next day. You know what I'm saying? People just have this feeling like, well, man, I'm in this. I'm seeing how everything's going on in the world. The end is going to be coming soon. And then 10 years goes by, you're yet this day in your captivity. And then you didn't even do the things you needed to do on a daily basis to make yourself be put in a better, position. Or to basically be able to maintain yourself, essentially. We know that there's ups and downs. Like I said, there's always going to be a time. There's always been a time when, a brother that's may need help. We're not knocking any brother that needs help in certain situations. There's no knock on that. That's going to happen. We are to be one. We're all to have a communal mindset in the body where we bear one another's burdens. However, do not be an unnecessary burden to a brother because you're not willing to work or you're misusing your funds over and over again. Okay? Because after a while, brothers will have to ask you, hey, well, how are you spending your money? And it's really to help you out. It's not to shame you, but it's to help you out. Okay? Because you may not know. You may not have the discipline. You may not know about these things. You may not know about credit. You may not know about budgeting because you didn't grow up in a house where you were taught that. So now you know better, you do better. Okay? And that's what we're trying to say. This is Ecclesiasticus chapter 39 and verse 26. The principal things for the whole use of a man's life are water, fire, iron, and salt, flour of wheat, honey, milk, and the blood of the grape, and oil and clothing. Okay, so the principal things, the essential things. So we know what things are needed. And anything else, like you said, a lot of stuff is luxury. Okay, a lot of stuff that we have in this society that people look at are really more luxury-based items than anything. So we simplify everything to the bare necessities of what we need, and then from there we build upon that. Okay, and so hopefully, this is edifying to you, brothers and sisters. And again, I want to give all glory and praise to our Heavenly Father Yahweh. And we do so in the name of the Lord and Savior Yahawashi. Grace and mercy be bound to the hopeful elect scattered throughout the four corners of the earth. Shalom.